wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna talk.
Welcome, my friends. It's Talk to Solomon time. Thanks for being a part of the show. We are waiting for Dr. Keys, but while we're waiting for him, Chief Steve and I will talk about a couple of issues. Chief, by the way, thank you for last week. You did a terrific job.
My pleasure.
And of course, Greg Howard's still with us. Greg, Hurricane Sandy occurred. We knew more about it in advance than Katrina. We did less to prepare than we did for Katrina. We have more people affected adversely than Katrina, and yet, there's not been so much as a feather thrown in Obama's direction. He made one appearance, hugged somebody, and that very person he hugged is already saying, I've gotten no help. And now, on top of everything else, a lot of the people that want to rebuild their homes are being told, well, you can't rebuild your home at all, or you can't rebuild your home the same way. You have to meet all these new regulations. Your thoughts?
Well, what did they expect? First of all, you have a liberal media, which, of course, is the propaganda arm of this administration. Remember, the media is owned by about 5 or 6 different corporations, and so they're always going to do everything they can to cover for this administration. I mean, you could have video of Obama standing over a body with the body still falling to the floor and the smoke falling out of the barrel of the gun, send it to 6 media outlets, and I doubt even Fox would air it at this point, okay? And, of course, they knew this storm was coming, and, of course, the people are angry, but none of this is going to make news. If Benghazi can't make news, this won't make news, and there is absolutely no way we're going to break through the media until the media is finally reached the point where they're either bankrupted, of course, I think he'll bail them out, or the people finally start to rise up and stand in front of the media with signs saying, we don't trust you anymore. And one way or the other, this is going to have to break. Somewhere we're going to have to break the tie between the government and the media. I mean, the logo for Op Slam is a picture of the White House, and it says separation of media and state. But and then, of course, the regulations, these have been on the books for a while, the regulations that once a house gets destroyed, these were regulations in response to Katrina and prior storms that once a house is destroyed in a floodplain, it cannot come back the same way. Of course, people up in that area of the country thought, yeah, that's great, pass that into law. They didn't expect that a storm would come their way. So, again, be very careful what you wish on or wish for in the terms of legislation and regulation on your neighbor, because it may come back and bite you. And that is exactly what has happened to these blue states up north when these laws were passed against the red states in the south. Now they're facing the same regulations that they wished on the south are now hitting them, and now they can no longer rebuild their houses or have the type of house they want thanks to the regulations they wanted on the south.
Well said, Chief.
Well, first of all, Obama has a regulation machine going in his office that's going to make any assembly line look like it's antiquated when he gets done with it. He's cranked out like 80 new regulations yesterday, I think, and it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of regulations that are all going to cost us time and money. Now, 2 things, though. You've got the best idea, but I've had an idea for years that I actually heard Mark Levin say tonight on his radio program earlier today, which was I believe that for years that the GOP should buy their own advertisements about all these issues. Quit complaining, quit bellyaching about the liberal media, not telling your story, and just buy some daggone airtime and put your story out there. But Stan, you got the best idea that you mentioned to me recently.
The Koch brothers and some of these very, very wealthy people, God bless them. Sheldon Adelson giving $10 million here and $20 million there. Buy one of the damn networks. I guarantee you, not only will you be able to get our information out, you'll make money on the deal. Look, the only reason Fox has the kind of money it has is because all the networks were liberal propaganda arms. Fox is only a modicum of fairness, a little bit of conservatism. They have Sean Hannity and that type of thing. But a lot of their people are flat out libs. And yet, people desperate for something other than networks flock to Fox, made them billions and billions and billions. Guys, buy ABC or CBS. CBS, you should be able to buy at a reasonable price. Make it all conservative, change the programming, change everything. That would be the answer. Do we have Alan Keyes? Wonderful. Alan.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Sorry, I'm a little late.
That's all right. No problem. You can just join our conversation. We're talking about the moaning and groaning on the right about the media being so slanted to the left and not talking about the failings of the Obama administration in Sandy, like they talked about the failings or the supposed failings of the Bush administration in Katrina. But I'm saying, why in the hell don't they buy, conservatives buy one of the networks? It'll immediately become the most profitable #1 network out there.
Well, which conservatives do you think would do that? Because buying networks requires buying networks requires a lot of money. Right?
Yeah, but the Cook brothers and some of these guys who are billionaires, they could do it.
Right, but unfortunately, I think the conservatism of our so-called billionaires these days, especially the ones who have been sort of twisting the arm and resting the neck of the Republican Party, these are folks who have set things up in such a way, Stan, that they're now controlling both sides of this equation. What do they care? I think it's quite obvious. And the last election proved it beyond doubt. You had a lot of these corporate types, particularly the banksters who were backing Obama, and you had a lot of the corporate types, particularly what I call the hedge fund hogs, backing Romney, and all of them made out like bandits in the course of the raping and looting of the American economy. So unhappily, when you talk about the big bucks that back up the so-called conservative, elements that are out there and big money that backs the Republican Party, they're not really conservative. They're the folks who are getting John McCain and saying, go out there and tell him to deep six all these moral issues and so forth and so on. Every time I've ever encountered that kind of stuff in the universe that I used to inhabit of the Republican Party, the source of it was the corruption that results from the influence of these big dollar types who basically, Stan, they don't want government of, by, and for the people. Why should they? The reestablishment of government by the few means that they will be the barons and dukes and little potentates of America now that it's no longer governed by its people. Do you think they're going to be able to resist that temptation? Because I don't think there are any George Washingtons among them. You know, he was the equivalent of that kind of billionaire in his time, richest man in America, and he backed the government of, by, and for the people. These people don't. They have turned against it. They mean to overthrow it. They mean to tear it down and throw it in the trash. So they don't want an alternative. Fox is actually, it represents exactly what they want. And they're the folks who are also pushing now for gay marriage, for the Republicans to stop, fighting the inevitable surrender of the very foundation of civilization. Because civilization doesn't matter to them so long as they control whatever order replaces it. And that, sadly, is what happens when you unleash the old demons of government that dominated in the world throughout the earth, throughout the history of the world until America was founded. That's what our people forgot, Stan. We were the exception, the extraordinary exception, the unique in history exception to government by the few and powerful. And now that's being overthrown. So the people who would buy up these networks, as you say, they could do it. They should do it. If they were really conservative, they would do it. But they are not going to do it because what's happening with this media represents them and represents the way they want this country to go, because the consolidation of government by the elitist few is exactly what's been on their agenda for the last 60 years.
All right. Well, that's obviously frustrating for all of us to hear. This election, in my opinion, was aggressively, egregiously, and in your face stolen. And the Republicans are saying nothing and doing nothing about it. And so we won't have any more elections because at this point, they can give you the results before anybody casts a vote.
Well, but they're not only saying and doing nothing. The thing that I find kind of, I'm wondering whether folks are going to finally open their eyes and see what's really going on. Because practically before the dust settled from the election, right? You had the leadership of Boehner and all these people, and they couldn't wait to signal surrender on all the issues of budget and fiscal responsibility and so forth and so on. They're waving that bloody shirt, boogeyman, scarecrow of the so-called fiscal cliff in everybody's face, and they're going to tell us they've got to do it because, in point of fact, it consolidates a government-dominated society in which it's no longer government of, by, and for the people. It's government of the people, using the government as an instrument to coerce and force people to provide their labor and resources to the little clique that controls the government through this hijacked political process. And therefore, Stan, the American people will be in the position every other people has been in throughout the history of the world. That's what oligarchy was about. That's what aristocracy was about. The forms of government that America overthrew, that it basically demonstrated that people didn't have to live that way. That form of government is now being imposed on us. And it's been done ruthlessly. It's been pursued for decades. And in the course of the last 10 years or so, I think we've been pushed into the final act, which really started to come to a head in 2008. It's one of those things bothers me. You know this fiscal cliff we're supposed to go off of? Don't kid yourself, everybody. These guys are saying we're going to go over the cliff. They pushed us over that cliff several years ago. We've been plummeting through the abyss for the last several years. And that is, I call it the fall of America. We fell into the abyss. We've been falling ever since. And what they're going to do in the course of the next a little while, starting with this lame duck session, is they are going to make that fall permanent. It's our new way of life. And that new way of life is this fabricated crisis that then becomes the excuse for imposing on the people of this country the destruction of their economic and every other form of freedom. This is what these guys want. Wake up. And the only way we're going to get anything else is if the people withdraw their support from this phony political scam and start to put together a movement and ultimately a party that represents government of, by, and for the people. Because neither of these lying, prevaricating, self-serving, elitist parties cares a whit about the republic, that form of constitutional self-government anymore. And I'm getting all impatient. I don't want to talk in these terms anymore because I can't stand it. It's a lie. It's all just a scam stage show. Get your heads out of it and start thinking about the real struggle, which has nothing to do with Democrats and Republicans. It's the age-old struggle of people versus elitists. America stood for one side of that, and if we're going to restore it, we have to start looking at what's really going on.
All right, I hear it. The question becomes, how do we go from where we are to that place? Let's get Greg in this conversation. Greg.
The first thing is the people are going to have to understand that what they think protects them does not. The Constitution is a piece of parchment upon which are written some great and lofty words that, when followed, are the ideal of a republic that will represent the rights of the people and protect the rights of the people, which come from God, not from government. However, the government is now usurping every one of those rights by moving God out of the equation in every possible way so that the only source of rights will become the government. The government does not give rights. The Constitution was not designed to limit the people. The Constitution was designed to limit the government. And the government has no interest in limiting its own powers whatsoever. The people have failed to step up time and time again over the past, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 presidential cycles, and it has gotten worse and worse and worse, and they have not stepped up and said, look, we are not going to let you subvert this Constitution. We're not going to let you take away this republic from us. We're not going to let you take our tax dollars and buy yourselves power with our money and secure votes from people with our money. Instead, they have allowed this either through apathy or simply because they want to see their side win. To this day, I'm on Twitter. People are already planning who the next GOP candidate is going to be and asking me to get involved. My answer to them is, I'm done with the GOP. Do you not hear me? I have no further interest in supporting the GOP. My interest is in supporting the Constitution and finding people who want to step up and defend the Constitution. I am not a partiot. I'm a patriot.
Yes, can I say amen? I say a hearty amen, because a matter of fact, I spent most of my day today writing a piece which is up on my blog. Now, I don't usually promote my blog pieces in the show, but this one I think is absolutely relevant. And I analyzed this fiscal crisis, and I'm talking about what it really represents. And it's in line, I think, with the quote. I have a quote there from Amos, the book of Amos, in which God is addressing these folks, these workers of iniquity. And they're people who want to get the Sabbath over with and stop talking about all the new moon festivals and the things that turn people to God, because they're anxious to get on with selling and cheating people and exploiting folks so that they can basically just consolidate their wealth and power. And God is basically describing them to a T. And I put it at the opening of the blog piece because I think that's exactly the mentality that is now regaining control of politics. It didn't have it before unchallenged in America. And I always feel badly now because, I deeply believe that you need a free enterprise system, that people need to be able to have businesses where they can reap the rewards of their effort and their talent, that those businesses should be in an environment where government doesn't strangle them and take all their resources and keep them from experimenting and thriving. Liberty is beautiful that way. But once you get a bunch of people, corporate, socialists, government bureaucrats, Obama, Romney, I don't care who they are, once they decide that they're going to consolidate control of government so that they can exploit and otherwise molest the income and liberty and responsibility of the people, then you've destroyed the constitutional system. And they put us in this position exactly where they want us. Your rights don't come from God, they come from government. Your prosperity is not a blessing from God, it comes from government. And justice is what we say it is, and that's it. And you're just now going to prepare yourselves to do what you're told, or you won't get a job, you won't get health care, you won't get this, you won't get that, you won't get anything. That's what it's about. They call it socialism, call it whatever you like. It's what the fascists were about. It's what the Nazis were about. It's what the corporate Fabian socialists in Europe have been about. It's what the liberals in America are about. It's what the corporate socialists who have unfortunately been taking money hand over fist in the last 2 decades while bringing us over the brink of economic destruction. It's what they're all about. And this is nothing new. And it's not the result of some invented ideology in the 20th century, even though certainly the socialist communist ideology served it. It's an age-old story. And it's the one the founders talked about when they were working on the Constitution. Hamilton spoke for 6 hours, and the opening focus of it was the permanent reality that politics consists of the need to deal with the many and the few, the people versus the elitists. And he didn't say you had to crush the people or crush the elitists, but the purpose of the Constitution was to make sure that neither side could dominate in violation of God's law and justice and right. And that's the way I think it has to be. And right now, the pendulum has swung in the direction of these elitists, and the people need to wake up. They're not taking care of you, except in the mafia sense.
All right, Chief.
Well, first of all, Dr. Keyes and Greg's comments were very good and right on target. I just want to add that I believe if we look at Representative Boehner or John McCain, they show us exactly what we should not do, and that is compromise our principles. And I believe that all of us should right now, at a personal level, adhere to, promote, and speak out on our Judeo-Christian principles and not be afraid of political correctness or any of those other mechanisms that are trying to overshadow us, and stick to our guns, stick to our principles, and help others that do the same thing, and promote our personal lives and our personal businesses, the mechanisms, the ideas, the ideals that will get us through this, and not be afraid anymore to stick to that and speak on that and speak our mind on those issues, because it's very important. We got to start there with our own personal ideas, our personal lives, our personal vocalization of all of this, and not be afraid anymore, and don't fall into the trap of, well, we got to get along, we got to turn the other cheek, all that kind of things, because they are taking everything away from us. We must take a stand.
Now, many people are going to listen to this conversation, and they're going to say, easy comments, but there is no there. Yes, you can talk about a new party. Yes, you can talk about standing for principle. You can talk about all those things, but the fact is 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or 500 of us are just bumps on the road to the juggernaut that we're opposing. How do we, whoever we are, come together with a strategy, a cogent strategy to be able to show some progress? Because certainly we're not going to be able in 2 years or 4 years put together a party that will be competitive.
Yes, you are. I disagree. This is what's killing us. We deserve to be slaves if we've forgotten how to be enterprising citizens. Okay? People put together businesses, and in a few years they will go from nothing to dominating a particular sector because they make the product that people need. And yet that entrepreneurship, that spirit of courage, has been banished from our politics. Oh, the big guys control everything. We can't do anything. We talk like serfs now. And it's just absurd. And think about this, Stan. Just a short while ago, the people of this country proved that that's just not so. I can still see and I can still remember going to these big Tea Party gatherings and so forth. Now, I warned people. I said, don't let yourself get co-opted by these Republican hacks. Don't pretend that you're going to go in there and do something and so forth. But they insisted. Okay, they tried it, and it failed. But the failure of this idea, we're going to change things from inside the Republican Party, you don't reach the conclusion, therefore, that the Tea Party in its reality failed. It didn't fail. The silly idea that energy, that dedication, that faithfulness could in fact achieve anything worthwhile in the context of a corrupt and corruptible party that has abandoned the God-fearing principles of the Republic. That was the mistake. And so stop acting like the thousands didn't turn out throughout the country for those Tea Party rallies, not once or twice, but over and over and over again. Stop acting like folks didn't do it without the big billionaires and the Karl Rove thugs, because they did. Remember who actually put that reality together. Not Freedom Works and their money. They ruined it. They came in afterwards to turn people away from God and tell them that they were going to accomplish something by pretending that our problems are material, by playing right into the hands of the Pauls who were lying to us and creating the crisis that they said they were going to solve, all in order to terrify and subdue and ultimately diffuse a movement that grew up from the people themselves. I think what we need to do is remember that, and you know where it really came from, Stan? I still remember this because I still know some people who were these leaders, and they backed away after a while. The first gatherings I went to were not led by people who had this mammon is God nonsense going on that then was the key reason why Mitt Romney and all the ilk like him don't deserve to be in office. You cannot solve our economic problems if you don't solve the abandonment of God-fearing approach to our politics, of the God-fearing approach to our politics that gives people the courage to be enterprising and to demand control of their resources, and not to fear that if they give up the lying government, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. It was the banishment of God that was the problem, but it was also the faithfulness of the leadership that originally started the Tea Party movement. They were people, I met them all over the country. They were God-fearing people. They weren't at the time obsessed with money. They saw the whole debacle with the debt and the orgy of destruction we were preparing for our children, and they were ashamed before God and wanted to do something about it. Time and again, this is what they said to me, and I haven't forgotten it. This whole other idea is the lie fabricated to demoralize that movement. And if we want to see it come springing up out of the grassroots once again, all we've got to do is remember God. Because you don't need anything these people have to offer if you are willing to act with the courage that a real commitment to restoring the principles of God, acknowledging justice that this country was founded on, will produce. That's what produced the Tea Party effort in the first place before it got that name. And instead of accepting for some media pundit to call you by some party that's not a party sort of name, no. I think, and I've been recommending to people, reach back into the history of this country. There is a name, the original, the first constitutional party. You know what they call themselves? They call themselves Federalists. It's what the Federalist Papers were named after and so forth. The root of the word federal, by the way, is fides, faith. And it has that connotation because the idea of a union based upon the commitment of people in good faith to a structure of government that they have agreed upon and to carry it out with respect for godly understanding of what's right. That has to be rooted in the kind of discipline and courage that can only and will only be reliably found, especially in the leadership, if they are motivated by trust in God and faith in themselves because of that trust in God. So I think that's the key, Stan. What we need is to get rid of this whole separation of the church and state idea, and we need to take the spirit of faith that was the fire that burned to establish this country in the first place, and we need to reignite it in the name of reestablishing the constitutional principles and the godly principles that will get us back on track. And you're not going to get that from these sort of GOP Democrats, Demgots, call them whatever you want. One faction aimed at doing nothing but overthrowing that form of government. We need to rediscover its principles. We need to revive our understanding of what it was all about. And people then need to have the courage, not that comes from money or media, but the courage that comes from the common ground of our dedication to God's truth. And that's still true for millions upon millions of people in America. And Romney didn't win, and everybody knows it, because a lot of those millions stayed home. They didn't want to have anything to do with the sham, and I don't blame them. But if you built a vehicle they could believe in, I bet they'd come storming back into the fray.
We'll have to see after the break. This is Talk to Solomon. Do you like being healthy? I do. In fact, this product, which I've been taking for years now, is absolutely the answer. Now, you may not believe it, but I'm actually 21, plus tax, of course. This product has 146 different healthful nutrients in it, and it's liquid, so it's bioavailable. It tastes great, and it's sugar-free. 1 ounce of Sonic Life each day will help you to maintain and enhance your health. It's a kind of a gift, well, that you'll thank your mom for, your husband for, your wife for, your kids for. Whoever you give it to, they're going to say thank you. And you are going to enjoy the benefits of having all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the nutrients your body needs in one very reasonably priced product. Just go to cpnlive.com and everything's right there. You'll be able to read all the ingredients. The price is right there, a flat price delivered to your door anywhere in the United States of America. Sonic Life is a gift, a great gift. Give it to yourself. I do. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. CPNLive.com, click on the icon for Mosey the Backup People, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey the Backup People. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule.